Hey guys, come on in, have a seat. We got a court update. Megan Thee Stallion has filed a motion for award of taxable costs against Milagro Elizabeth Cooper in the amount of $68,850.79. As y'all already know, I got the court documents. So let's get into it.
Document Tingz, bringing truth to the light. Paper trail strong, yeah, we reading it right. From the docket to the drop, every case, every scene. I'm your courtroom reporter with the facts in between. Yeah. Document Tingz, bringing truth to the light. Paper trail strong, yeah, we reading it right. From the docket to the drop, every case, every scene. I'm your courtroom reporter with the facts in between. Yeah.
All right, y'all already know about my copyright disclaimer under Section 107 and also my QR code to my X page. Let's get right on into the actual document itself. Plaintiff motion for award of taxable cost. Plaintiff Megan Pete by and through her counsel in pursuant, and as y'all can see there go the little case laws there, hereby moves for a judgment taxing costs against defendant Milagro Cooper. Ms. Pete, as the prevailing party in this action, is entitled to an award of taxable costs as a matter of law. In support of this motion, Ms. Pete's bill of costs and accompanying exhibits are attached. All right, so we're going to skip right over the background because we are already aware. But if you take a look at the bottom right there, $68,850.79. We're going to get into the breakdown below. So let's continue. So pause your screen if you want to read over those case laws there, but we're going to go right here. Number 1 through 6. Fees of the clerk and marshal. Fees for printed or electronically recorded transcripts necessarily obtained for use in this case. Fees and disbursements for printing and witnesses. Fees for exemplification and the cost of making copies of any materials where the copies are necessarily obtained for use in this case. Docket fees under Section 1923 of this title. Compensation of court-appointed experts. Compensation of interpreters and salaries, fees, expenses, and costs of special interpretation services under Section 1828 of this title. Okay. Now we're going to go right down here to argument. Ms. P is entitled to her taxable cost as the prevailing party. Ms. P, as the prevailing party, is entitled to her taxable cost. All right, that's a case law there. Here, however, the jury returned a verdict in Ms. Pete's favor on all 3 of her claims, awarding her compensatory and punitive damages. See docket 226. While the jury's findings as to defendant alleged media defendant status resulted in the court entering final judgment only as to counts 2 and 3, which is IIED, which is an acronym for intentional infliction of emotional distress, and then promotion of an altered sexual depiction. The jury indisputably found defendant liable of count 1, which is defamation per se, and falsely accusing Ms. Pete of the crime of perjury. Ms. Pete's request costs fees of the clerk, service fees, costs of deposition, transcripts, and videos for witnesses unavailable at trial, hearing transcript costs, printing costs for trial, and witness fees were necessarily and reasonably incurred to present her case. Ms. Pete is entitled to recover service of process fees, pro hac vice fees, and docket fees. All right, so as y'all can see right here, first, Ms. Pete requests a total of $1,064 for service of the summons and complaint on defendant and subpoenas on key third parties. The supporting invoices are attached as Exhibit A. Now, we will get into those later on in the video, but let's continue. As y'all can see right there, for each item served, Ms. P only seeks the minimum statutory fee that the U.S. Marshals may collect, which is $65 per hour for personal service and $8 by mail. For service of the summons and complaint on defendant, Ms. Pete requests $130 or the amount the U.S. Marshals charge for 2 hours. As the corresponding invoice shows, it took 2 attempts to successfully serve defendant. Awarding service of process fees for 11 attempts, with each attempt granted the $65 rate that the U.S. Marshals charge per hour. Regarding document subpoenas, Ms. Pete seeks to recover fees in serving AT&T Zelle, which is Early Warning Service LLC, California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. As y'all can know, that was for Tory Lanez, or as known as Sunstar Peterson. Okay, so we're just going to go down to the bottom here. You can pause your screen, but we're going to go right here to where it says Ms. Pete seeks $195 for 3 personal service attempts on Sunstar Peterson, $138 for 1 mail and 2 personal service on Daystar Peterson for his 3 deposition volumes, $65 for 1 personal service on Caesar McDowell, $65 for 1 personal service on Livingston Allen, and $65 for 1 personal service on Emil Holland Briggs, which, as some of us know him as Noir King. Second, Ms. Pete seeks the taxation of $750 in pro hac vice fees. The court has exercised discretion in awarding such fees as cost of the clerk, and that is case law, as y'all can see all up and through that. We're going to start right where it says Ms. Pete. Ms. Pete requests $250 per application for each of the 3 examining attorneys at trial, which is Mary Hyapetian, Joanna Manillo, and Stephanie Kellerman. The supporting invoices are attached as Exhibit B. Finally, pursuant to 28 U.S.C., which is a case law there, docket fees are a taxable costs. Now, let's get into that. Ms. Pete requests that the court tax $405 in filing fee for opening this civil action. Okay. Now we're going to go right here to the cost Ms. Pete incurred for transcripts and deposition videos were necessary and appropriate. Ms. Pete seeks recovery on the cost of select deposition transcripts and videos in hearing transcripts that were necessarily obtained for use in this case. Ms. Pete can recover fees for printed or electronically recorded transcripts necessarily obtained for use in this case. She meets that burden of showing necessity and reasonableness. For depositions, a prevailing party may recover the cost of transcribing and videotaping a deposition under 1920 if the notice of deposition indicated that the deposition would be recorded by stenographic and non-stenographic means. The opposing party did not object to the method of recordation prior to the deposition, and the prevailing party explains why it was necessary to obtain both a transcript and video recording of the deposition, and that is a case law there. All right. Now, we do have a lot of case laws, but look at that dollar amount. This total, just for the deposition and the videotaping, $41,654.30, supported by invoices appended to Exhibit D. Now, again, we will get into those exhibits later on in the video. Deposition transcripts and videos for the following witnesses should be taxed: Ms. Pete herself, which was live testimony; the defendant, which was live testimony; Emil Holland Briggs, which was live testimony; Sunstar Peterson, which is deposition designation; Daystar Peterson, which was deposition designation; Antonio Toll-Free, which was deposition designation; Caesar McDowell, deposition designation; and Livingston Allen, which was deposition designation. Except for the parties and Mr. Holland Briggs, all other witnesses were unavailable at trial, necessitating I'm keep getting that word tongue-tied, y'all. Necessitating the designation of their depositions and use of the corresponding videos and transcripts. Defendant also named Sunstar Peterson, Daystar Peterson, and Livingston Allen on her trial witness list. Refer back to docket 133-4, which was defendant's witness list. Okay. Furthermore, Ms. Pete seeks reimbursement of transcript costs totaling $2,148.96 for the following hearings. On July the 14th of 2025, that was a hearing on defendant's discovery deficiencies and spoliation. Again, which is number 2 on August the 7th of 2025, which was the evidentiary hearing regarding defendant spoliation. Then again on October the 30th of 2025, which was the first pretrial conference. And then again on November the 10th, which was the second pretrial conference. The total amount is a reduced as, calculated with the lowest rate of $4.84 per page. Invoices are attached as Exhibit E. Again, we will review that at the end of this video. Following the July 14th, 2025 and August 7, 2025 evidentiary hearings, the court determined that defendant had destroyed and concealed key evidence and granted spoliation sanctions. Refer back to docket 93. Okay. Specifically, the court held that Ms. Pete was entitled to jury instructions that defendant intended to deprive plaintiff of the evidence in the deleted messages and chats, that at least some of the deleted messages related to the claims in this case were about plaintiff, and that these deleted messages were unfavorable to defendant. And you can refer back to docket 152 and 39. All right. And then also docket 224, which was the court's instructions to the jury. At 3-4, Ms. Pete referred to these 2 hearing transcripts to prepare jury instructions, examine and impeach a defendant at trial, and confer with defense counsel post-trial regarding an appropriate award of attorney fees for having to move on defendant spoliation. As for the October the 30th of 2025 and November the 10th of 2025 pretrial conferences, okay, these transcripts were necessarily for finalizing trial exhibits, refining the verdict form and jury instructions, and presenting Ms. Pete's case in adherence to the court's rulings. Furthermore, Ms. Pete relied on these transcripts to argue against defendant's classification as a media defendant during trial, and in her post-trial motion to reinstate the jury verdict on the defamation claim. Now, I did also, I'm going to take a quick pause. I did post that. I'm going to attach the video to the end of this video, but I posted where Megan Thee Stallion teamed up, right? She's teamed up with one of the top defamation firms in the world, which is Claire Locke LLP. She had moved to appear as amicus curiae, right, in support of Megan Pete's motion to reinstate the jury's defamation verdict. So I will attach that. You know how you see the subscription and all that jazz. I will put that at the end of the video for y'all. Okay, so let me unpause now. Their necessity justifies Ms. Pete's recovery, and that is case law there. Okay, now let's get into the cost of Ms. Pete's incurred for printing where necessary and appropriate. Ms. Pete seeks $19,601.02 for necessarily and reasonably incurred photocopying costs limited to select days leading up to trial. These costs are permissibly taxed under 28 U.S.C. 1920, and you can refer back to that case law there. Ms. Pete has omitted any costs incurred for counsel's convenience, such as for custom tabs and delivery, as well as the cost of printing trial boards or physical exhibits such as models and charts. And you can refer back to that case law there. On November the 12th, Ms. Pete incurred a total of $2,803.78 to print select deposition and hearing transcripts, disclosures by the parties, key pleadings, and court orders, photocopies attributable to discovery, copies of pleadings, correspondence, documents tendered to the opposing party, copies of exhibits, and documents prepared for the court's consideration are all recoverable. And that is case law there. Ms. Pete used each of these printed documents to craft substantive arguments, impeach witnesses, facilitate deposition designations, refine the verdict form and jury instructions, and comply with the court's rulings. On November the 16th, Ms. Pete printed trial exhibits from the joint plaintiff and defendant list totaling $16,035.44. Any surcharge incurred was necessary to ensure that the exhibits were ready ahead of trial the following day. Cost of printing trial exhibits can be taxed, and that's the case law there. Ms. P also seeks the cost of copying exhibits from the criminal trial People versus Daystar Peterson, which is case number BA490599, which were in turn used as exhibits in this civil case. And you can refer back to the trial exhibits. Okay. Ms. Pete needed to seek the leave of both the California trial and appellate courts to copy these exhibits. Ms. Pete seeks a total of $761.80 as charged by a vendor to copy these physical exhibits at the courthouse. In sum, Ms. Pete's request for printing fees is conservative, representing a fraction of what was necessarily incurred to litigate this case through trial. All right, so let's get into the witness fees comply with 28 USC. So as you can see here, we're going to skip over some of this. Some of this is case law. At trial, Ms. Pete presented live testimony from Dr. Lenore Walker, Emil Holland Briggs, and Sean McDermott, amongst others. Okay, so let's get into the dollar amount. Under 28 USC, a witness is entitled to a trial attendance fee of $40 per day, as well as for the time necessarily occupied in going to and returning from the place of attendance. So let's get down to how much was that. It says for Miami-Dade County during the month of November of 2025, the GSA set a daily per diem rate of $145 for lodging. Okay, so let's get into the people. So Dr. Lenore Walker. Dr. Walker is a clinical and forensic psychologist who examined and diagnosed Ms. Pete as having post-traumatic stress disorder, or also known as PTSD. Dr. Walker testified on November the 19th of 2025. Plaintiff requests her lodging cost of $580 per the GSA rate, local transportation cost of $24.60, and attendance fee of $120 for 2 days of travel and 1 day of testimony, for a total of $724.60. Emil Holland Briggs. Mr. Holland Briggs, formerly known as content moderator for defendant, Mr. Holland Briggs flew in from out of state to testify on November the 20th of 2025. Plaintiff seeks his lodging cost of $435, economy flight fare of $993.96, and local transportation cost of $308.76, which totals $1,737.72. Let's get into Sean McDermott. Mr. McDermott is a managing director of FTI Consulting, an outside forensic expert approved by the parties to image defendant's phone. Mr. McDermott testified on November the 20th, 2025. Plaintiff seeks his lodging cost of $290, local transportation cost of $355.19, and his attendance fee of $120 for 2 days of travel and 1 day of testimony, for a total of $765.19. Conclusion. Wherefore, Ms. Pete respectfully requests that the court taxed $68,850.79 as cost in her favor against defendant. And that is the end of this particular court document here. Okay. Now, as y'all already know, look at the bottom of each court document. On some of them, there are hyperlinks. So this is showing the gsa.gov travel plan book per diem rates. So I'm just going to click on this, right? So we're going to get a generalization of what is actually going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take y'all off the screen real quick. And we're going to get into what is this per diem here. All right, so this is Miami. So this is what they meant by GSA. So if you look at Miami-Dade, so y'all see M&IE total, which is $92, breakfast $23, lunch $26, dinner $38, incidental expenses, which is $5, first and last day of travel $69. Okay, and then here go a breakdown right here from 2025 and how they got that $145 price was right here, as y'all can see right there. Okay, all right, so that is that. I think now what we're going to do is let's go ahead and move right on into each exhibit so we can take a look at each exhibit. I know I did not post it on X, but I am going to present it right here, right now. All right, give me one moment. All right, so let me move this out the way and move that out the way. All right, here we go. So this is for exhibit, which is the bill of costs, okay? So y'all take a look here. Fees of the clerk, $750. Fees for service of summons and subpoena, $1,064. And as y'all can see, there are fees for printed or electronically recorded transcripts, which was $43,803. Fees for witnesses, $3,227.51. Fees for exemplification and cost of making copies of any materials where the copies are necessarily obtained for use in the case, $19,601.02. Docket fees, $405. And as y'all can see, they're totaling $68,850.79. And then take a look here for witness fees. You have Dr. Lenore Walker, which is a total of $724.60. Emil Holland Briggs, which was from Los Angeles as he traveled in, $1,737.72. And then Sean McDermott, which was $765.19, totaling $3,227.51. Okay, so that is that document right there. All right, so let's go ahead and get this one out of the way. All right, let me bring up now Exhibit A. So we're into Exhibit A, as y'all can see. All right. This is when they build, and as y'all can see, and this is pretty much what Exhibit A is. So I guess this is when they attempted to subpoena, as y'all can see, Sunstar. That's his look, pause. If y'all recall, we thought that this was a woman. Remember when we took a look at the actual Zelle payments and they was like, this ain't Sunstar. Well, apparently that's his middle name, because that's what we saw on the Zelle payments. Okay, rule of thought. Okay. Okay, and we're at the bottom. All right, so that's this one. This is Exhibit A. Okay, Exhibit A. So let's get that off the screen. Let's come back on. All right, so let's take a look at Exhibit B. Let's get Exhibit B on the screen. All right, so let's get Exhibit B on the screen. Okay, so here go Exhibit B. Matter description: Megan Thee Stallion adverse to DJ Academics and Milagro Grams. Y'all see that? Ooh, Alex Spiro. What's his name doing right there? Y'all see? Alex Spiro right there. Okay, filing fees. Okay. And right, and that's the end of this document. Okay, so that is Exhibit B. All right, so let's get Exhibit B off of the screen. Let's get to Exhibit C. Now, Exhibit C is docket fees. Okay, so let's get Exhibit C on the screen. All right, y'all see that? All right, and that is Exhibit C. All right, so let's get that off of the screen and let's get right on into Exhibit D. Now, Exhibit D is deposition, transcript, and video fees. So we're going to break down because, as y'all do know, that costs the most, right? All right, so let's bring this up on the screen. Okay, Exhibit D. And this was from Emil Pauline Briggs. This was on March the 31st of 2025. And y'all can see the $5,483.51. This was just for Emil Briggs. Daystar Peterson, which was April the 9th of 2025. When that, as y'all do know, that did not last long. That was $2,492.36. Oh, Daystar Shmuel Peterson. Oh, they put his full name in there. This one was on September the 15th of 2025. Okay. $2,583.78. Then Daystar Peterson, Volume 3, which was on November the 14th of 2025. $7,020.55. Wow. Let's get into Sunstar Peterson. His was done April the 4th of 2025. $6,858.82. Oh, Sunstar did two. Okay, so volume 2, April the 7th of 2025. Okay. $8,401.10. Okay. See, didn't know that. There goes some tea. Y'all, we got some tea. Y'all, we got some tea. There's some tea. Y'all, we got some tea. That's some tea right there. We didn't know. We didn't know they had to do Sunstar 2 times. Wow, that's a lot of money. Okay, let's go on to Antonio Toll-Free. Okay, this was July the 22nd of 2025. Okay, that was $2,628.34. Let's get into Caesar McDowell, which was on July the 25th of 2025. Ooh, $12,062.57. Caesar McDowell, Volume 2, November the 13th of 2025. $3,582.70. Livingston Allen, August the 22nd of 2025. Ooh-wee, $13,267.36. And then they also had to do a volume 2, which we all know that second deposition from him was roughly 45 minutes to an hour. So how much was that? $1,370.57. Wow. Megan Pete, which was July the 30th of 2025. How much was that? $7,071.08. Milagro Elizabeth Cooper, which was on July the 21st of 2025. So how much was that? $16,621.29. And then she also had to do a volume 2, which was October the 20th, 2025. That's when they, as in they, Megan legal team came out and said, hey, they had newly discovered evidence that they had got at a later date, and they wanted to then question her on those items. So that is why we see a volume 2. And that was $3,134.59. And that is the end of this one. That is Exhibit D. All right, so let's get that off of the screen. And let's get right on into Exhibit E, which was the hearing transcript fees. Okay, so let's bring that up. All right, so this is Exhibit E. Hold on, my screen buffering. 1 second, y'all. I don't know if y'all can see this, but my screen is showing that it's buffering. Y'all see that, Exhibit E? All right, Exhibit E. Okay. Just pause your screen. Just read. Pause your screen. Okay. All right, and that is the end of Exhibit E. Let's get that off of the screen. Let's go over to Exhibit F. Now, Exhibit F is printing fees. Now, as y'all do know, that was also another dollar amount that was kind of high as well. So let's get this pulled up. Give me 1 second. All right. Bring this over. Bring that over. All right. Exhibit F, y'all. Y'all look at that. $4,163.46. 10,000. Y'all see that? $19,637.43. That was 308.20. This was 453.60. Ooh, a lot of money, y'all. All right, that was Exhibit F. Now let's get that off of the screen. Okay, let me bring y'all back. Let's take a look at Exhibit G. Now, with Exhibit G, we got Exhibit H and I. We're almost done, y'all. We're almost done. Y'all bear with me. All right, so let's get Exhibit G onto the screen. All right, this is Exhibit G. This is lawyer's travel. Pause your screen, take a look. That was a cheap Uber ride. Y'all see that? Okay, $7. All right. Woo. Out of office day rate, not including travel, lodging, dining expenses. This was on November the 17th through the 21st. $5,000 for 4 days. $20,000. Y'all see that? That is Walker and Associates LLC. Megan Pete. Y'all see that, right? And this was for Dr. Lenore. Ooh, that's a lot of money. Anyway, that is Exhibit G. Exhibit G. We're almost there, guys. We're almost there. We got 2 more left. 2 more left. So this one is Exhibit H, which is Emil Holland Briggs expenses. So let's get into Exhibit H. Let me get this one on the screen. Exhibit H. All right. Okay, just pause your screen, y'all. Just pause your screen and read. But if you seeing what I'm seeing, then y'all see. All right, and that is Exhibit H. Let's get that off of the screen. We got one more. We are at the end. Also, I would like to attach to the bottom of this too. Milagro Elizabeth Cooper did file for an appeal. So I would go ahead. Let me just bonus. We're going to put that at the bottom of this. Okay, so let's get into Exhibit I. Here go Exhibit I, y'all. And this is for forensic expert services. $35,653.50. Y'all see this? $48,142.09. And this is for Sean McDermott. Look at that fee, $11,050, $1,438. So I'm curious as to what they cut out and what they left in. I'm curious. I'm very, very, very curious. All right. So now that we are done with that, let's go ahead and let's get into what we came to talk about, which is, if y'all have not noticed by now, Milagro Elizabeth Cooper did file for an appeal. Let's just go ahead and throw it in there. Take a look here, y'all. Notice and hereby given that defendant Milagro Cooper hereby appeals to the United States Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit from the December the 2nd of 2025 final judgment. And you can refer back to docket 227. Finding defendant Milagro Cooper liable on counts 2 and 3 of plaintiff Megan Thee second amended complaint. And you can refer back to docket 31 that was filed on February the 10th of 2025. And the lawyer that is still on the case, as y'all can see right there, is Jeremy McLemont. All right. All right, y'all. That is the end of this video. Now, if you like what you see here, of course, like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate all of you. I cannot do this without you. I love y'all. And y'all make me who I am today. And as I always say, when you lead with integrity, you never have to worry about somebody questioning your loyalty or your intentions. And with that being said, I will see y'all on the next video. Take care.